What is up, YouTube? We are coming at you with episode 17 of the 5D podcast, man. The 5D Warrior podcast. As always, I'm Corey.
The Infinite Creator.
The Infinite Creator, as we all are.
John, aka John.
AKA John, in this lifetime.
In this lifetime.
In this lifetime. So we talked about a whole bunch of good shit last time, right? A whole bunch of good shit. Time travel, perception of time, free will, secret space program, Pfizer. But today I want to touch on the free will again, because I've been reading A Course in Miracles. Great book if you haven't read it. I know you have like looked into the material but haven't read it. So
yeah, no, I haven't read it yet. But like if anyone doesn't know what A Course in Miracles is, it's essentially, from what you described it to me as, is like a channeled work, and like the channeling is essentially, or apparently is, Jesus being channeled. So
not Jesus being channeled. It's said that it was dictated by Jesus, whatever that means. So someone who was an atheist, who's an atheist all of her life, worked at a university and had to do a project where she needed to get more in touch with herself, blah, blah, blah. And she started hearing voices in her head, like schizophrenia, essentially. And the voice she was hearing was what she wrote down that eventually became this book, A Course in Miracles. And it had multiple people working on it, because like I think she was communicating her ideas with a group of people, and I don't know if it's exactly what she was hearing in her head, but that's like the general idea of how it came to be.
Well, it's pretty profound. So like,
it's very profound. Like
definitely outside of something than herself if she was atheist.
Yes, very high vibrational, especially for somebody who didn't believe in anything higher than themselves beforehand. Yeah. Okay, so the idea that it proposes about free will, I mean, it doesn't necessarily call it free will, but it does in the same sense.
What is it called?
I'm not sure. The book is in the other room. I'm not going to grab it right now, but it talks about, so we understand ourselves as separate selves in this third density incarnation. I understand myself as Corey. You understand yourself as John, right?
Correct.
And that's because we see in duality, we see in separation. We are living in separation because third density is the density of separation.
And density of polarity, all that.
Exactly. But then somebody like Jesus, right, an enlightened being, saw the oneness in the world. He didn't see separate selves as separate selves. He saw them as separate bodies, but one self. Understand that? And and he sees all awareness as the one Holy Spirit, that everybody shares the Holy Spirit, right? That's how it describes it in the book, is we are all the Holy Spirit. We have the ego because we have this body, which creates the ego, and it wants to have that sense of self, but the Holy Spirit is in everybody, and that is the one spirit, the oneness of the world.
The oneness consciousness.
Exactly. And that Holy Spirit is essentially experiencing for the creator. That Holy Spirit is the creator. So if we believe that we are that Holy Spirit, we believe that we are just a small piece of the creator, how could it be our free will and not the creator's free will? So that's the question that it poses. Like anything that we say, right now, is it really me taking the sip of water, or is it my body taking the sip of water, me experiencing that sip of water? So when you look at it in the terms of
it's not you experiencing the water, it's the creator.
Exactly. The spirit
so I think we don't even have to go on with this podcast anymore, because I agree. Because like, you just debunked free will essentially.
Yes.
Because if you're talking, but again, it's debunked, but at the same time, it's not, in the sense that if you're in a high vibration state of being, like say Jesus type, in the third density of a higher level of consciousness, fourth or fifth, you wouldn't experience free will essentially, because you would be living in a beingness of oneness and of the creator. But for most people in the third dimension, that is not the case. So then I guess we could pose the argument that it exists in the third dimension.
Yeah, but I would say that
in an infinite infinite what's eternity type thing, it's not real because we're
Exactly.
all the same being. So
Exactly.
like all of us can't have an individual sense of free will.
Yeah, exactly. Free will exists in duality. We can
Yes.
we can conclude that. We can conclude that.
Cut the
Debunked.
podcast. All right, this was sponsored by blah blah blah. We're done.
Okay, so what other
Moderna.
questions we got? See, I think time is an
Eric,
interesting.
yeah, I'll see if I can.
I think time is a very interesting concept. We talked about time last time. We talked about time travel, but like
Yeah.
time in general, how we experience time, how we perceive time, because we don't actually know what time is. All we can do is perceive time through a body, right? Like this instant right here, I could have been brainwashed 10 hours ago, and all of the memories from the rest of my life could have been implanted in my brain. And it could just be me existing for 10 hours, right? Like in reality, that could happen. Not that it
Yeah,
did, but
I don't
like,
know. Repeat that. I'm like texting Eric, but I think I have an idea based off what you
like,
said.
like the Matrix type shit where they can implant memories into your brain. So if I got kidnapped 10 hours ago and I'm a completely different human and they just wipe my brain and now I'm experiencing this reality with these false memories that I think are mine, even though they're not, like that could be what time is. We don't know what time is.
Yeah, I guess
Like your past could be implanted in your brain if we were in a simulation type.
I could have got picked up by a Draco last night and forget what happened to me. Like, yeah, because time doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So
Off the Matrix Draco, let's talk about time in general. You know what I'm saying? Like how do we perceive time? Because the only thing that allows us to perceive time is this body. And the only sense of time that we really have, obviously we have night and day, and
just
oh,
aging.
I'm this many years old. But like those years only account for how long you've been alive. Like that's all you know. And before is
if
just
aging
stories.
if aging didn't exist, we wouldn't experience time in any sense. The sun and
Exactly.
the sun would just set and rise, and that would be that. No, you wouldn't equate it to a time
Mm-hmm.
type
But what
like structure.
But would anything have real meaning if we didn't
I
age?
mean,
That's another question. Because like,
no,
right?
not
Like
that nothing would have, not that nothing would have meaning, but when you say don't age, like you would, are you saying just like at all, like you would just exist as
I'm
like a
saying you
certain,
live as this human incarnation for infinity.
yeah, but like you would, so like
And you're just like you now for
you're
infinity.
just like in your prime self for like infinite amount of time,
Yeah.
and you can't die.
Yeah.
So no, not really, because what you'd just be doing, not that there would, yeah, nothing would mean anything, because like nothing, if nothing you love can get taken away from you, then like you can't experience, you if you lived in a society where you never aged and like time was infinite and like nothing bad could you couldn't die type shit, like you wouldn't pose meaning onto anything, because like you wouldn't understand that like in the third dimension stuff is finite.
Yeah, exactly. I think
And
the
that's the only reason
finiteness.
we identify thing, like we give things meaning, is because like at any given moment it could be taken away from us, essentially.
No, that's very true.
Like
Because
if
like
you didn't like a loved one or something, like if they could never leave you, you wouldn't you would still love them in a sense, but it wouldn't be like meaningful. You wouldn't love them as much because you know that like you couldn't, they'll always be there for you.
I
You
guess we're
know,
just like kind of like speculating here because like we're not infinite. But like,
well, we are just not in this reality.
yeah, exactly. Um, but like suffering exists with time, right? Like I feel as if you were outside of time, that suffering wouldn't exist, which is like meditation, and you escape suffering through raising your vibration, raising your consciousness. If you had an infinite amount of time to raise your consciousness, you would essentially escape suffering, right? You would
Yes,
figure it
but
out eventually, because
you,
like the whole point of it reincarnating on earth is to figure it out.
Yeah, essentially, but like no one really figures it out besides like yogis and monks type.
Yeah, but you think that they're the only ones that figured it out, but like everybody else is just like still like, I guess you could call it like new souls trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Because one day, like this could potentially not. I think this will be our last life, but it could not. It could very well not be.
Very well. Yeah.
Like, how would we know? We
We
wouldn't
have
know.
no idea. Like we're on this path right now that
Like
we
we say
think
it,
like,
our whole
yeah.
brand is based around it. But, like, it very well couldn't. Like, it might not be. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very
Something could
interesting
happen.
concept.
Something could happen tomorrow, and my whole belief system could change. Like, I was talking to my buddy like the other day, and he was saying how like he doesn't give like his dad was a pastor, so like he grew up Christian and stuff. But
Yeah.
like now he like doesn't believe anything. Like he believes in stuff, but not he doesn't believe in anything like fully where he believes like this is right and like his views can't change on it, which is essentially how what we believe. Like
Yeah.
I'm open to any conversation you have. I believe what I believe to be true, but I don't necessarily know if it's the right thing because no one can know. I just know based off my experiences it's the most spiritual thing like that.
It's the most true to you. Like whatever
It's the
you
most
hold
true to
true,
me,
whatever
but
you
like
hold true.
it's the most true to me, but it's in the sense that like when people sit down, anyone does what we do, everyone has the same like profound like spiritual religious like experience type thing.
Yeah, I would agree that
But
like
what he was saying as far as yeah, like he doesn't give anything meaning, and I was like he was like same is true for us. Like a year ago, you would think your year ago self was like really dumb compared to what you know now.
yeah, even just in a year because we really
Or
only
even
started
even a
this.
week ago, you could have, or even yesterday, like something could happen this morning that changes your whole perception on like one thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So then you
absolutely.
would think, oh, I was dumb yesterday, and that's the whole getting away from suffering thing. Because the more you could obtain new experiences and new knowledge, like for example, in my class today, the founder of Patagonia, right? His name is Yvon Charnard or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But he's the founder of Patagonia, and he's like he brings like the quote unquote Zen philosophy to like Patagonia, and how like Patagonia is like that his mission is to make the environment more sustainable before he makes a profit. So like his whole Patagonia's whole like business model is all like out of whack because like he genuinely like doesn't care about making money. He just wants to like make the world a better place type thing. So like he wrote a book. It's called "Let My Workers Go Surf," and it's basically off the idea that like if you work for Patagonia, like if the waves are nice, you could straight up leave your work and go surf for the day.
That's
Like
crazy.
yeah, that's like his philosophy on work though. Is like as long as you get your work done, the waves are nice, you can go work. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, and he doesn't look for like people that are like white collar, like business school students or like CEOs in the business field. Like he looks for quote unquote what he calls dirt bags to work for him, in the sense that like a dirt bag would be like a job hopper or like an individual that has like an individual that has their own ideas and is like willing to like innovate for Patagonia, not just like the closed-minded like white collar person that's only trying to make like money.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But what
No,
I
that
was
makes sense.
saying, the whole point of me telling this is one of his
Oh,
quotes.
Eric's joining.
Oh, actually,
Yeah.
one of his quotes was what is it? I wrote it down. One sec. Oh, the whole like in the 70s or 80s, people were like the the best man. Hold up, pause. I got it. I don't remember. One more.
Hey, what's going on, Eric?
What's up, guys? How you doing today?
Pretty good. How about you?
Oh, what's up, Eric?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
stopped in at my homie's house. We were out in the land, but there's really not that much we could do today. Raining.
Oh yeah, it's pouring over there.
You're in
Yeah,
Cali right now?
California.
Oh, that's
Mar-
awesome.
Where at in Cali?
near Yosemite Park.
Was
The
that north or south?
mm,
Middle?
east of Sacramento.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's
middle.
sick. That's awesome.
Oh,
What are you doing out
there?
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like seeing what these guys got going on their property, seeing, what I can do to potentially provide support or see how we can integrate together to, co-create.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
Oh yeah.
Soon I'll likely be going to Washington to check out another location. So just on a stick and move right now, it seems like.
Oh, nice. You've been
Yeah,
flying or you've been driving everywhere?
Right.
Oh,
Doing a
awesome.
You've been
7,000.
driving all over the place, right? You were in
Yeah.
Texas, right? Then Florida.
Mhm.
Now you made your way back to Cal. Did you stop anywhere else? Where was you were in Florida, right? And then you went
Yeah,
to
Florida. I went from Florida to Arkansas, and then
Okay.
from Arkansas to Sedona, and then from Sedona to here.
That's crazy, man.
Damn.
Been a lot.
Hell of
So
a journey. And it's been only like a month or so. How long has it been? It hasn't been that long.
Well, I landed in LA in January and picked up my car from my friend, and since then I've been pretty much on the move the entire time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What are you driving around in?
An old Ford Escape 2000
Nice.
hybrid.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So what have you been up to on your adventures?
Lots, honestly, just connecting with people, reconnecting with family, old friends. So a little bit of business and pleasure, just kind of in the flow of things. A lot, coming together. I looked at a lot of different properties throughout the United States, and just seeing, what their intentions are, the type of people that are there, and like, just making connections so that we can all weave this dream together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I was on the live Instagram a couple week or two ago. You and Troy doing the Qi Gong out in
Yo,
when you were
yeah.
in Sedona.
How's the 100-day gong going?
Great, man. I mean, I've been on my qigong for like 5 years now.
Really every day.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every day. I mean, there are days that I don't like get it in, but it's a standard. If I miss it, it's like something crazy happened.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, it's good though. Yeah, qigong in the park every morning. So join us out there. It's a good
You guys
time.
always do it live, right?
Yep, it's always live.
I feel like I'm always like in class when I see it going on because of the time difference.
Right. It's around 6:45 a.m. Pacific time. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm at football every day and I see it. I don't know if I saw it live. I saw it, I think Troy posted it afterwards, after the fact. I was watching.
those replays are good too.
Yeah, they are. I've been trying to get some new moves and stuff like that. Like I saw you guys doing the Zen swing. I've been doing that one. You got any tips for kind of some moves that you've been enjoying doing recently, or just ones that are real good for clearing your head?
Did you do any of the stork walk?
The
Did you see-
stork. I don't know if I did.
Let's see. Well, that's a good one for retraining the breathing. I mean, even just breathing squats, just like standing and breathing, exhaling down, squatting down, inhaling up, really breathing into the diaphragm, expanding the rib cage. Anything like that's really powerful. I mean, realistically, one of my favorite things to do is kind of just free flow and have good posture and just like see whatever feels good moving around.
Okay, cool. So stork walk like this, like kind of like raising almost like a march. I'll put a
Yeah.
video on, but I don't think we'll be able to hear it. Oh, maybe that works. Like I don't know if you guys can hear it.
I can't hear it, but I can see it.
Whatever. This is kind of a bad video. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool.
So it's a yeah, I mean anything like that. Really realistically like breathing and moving.
Mhm.
And me getting out of your head has been I had to find a way to engage my ego. And so for that, you do something repetitive like a mantra or a visualization, and it gets to the point where the ego is occupied like doing the visualization, but it's so repetitive that the ego gets bored. And then that's when like you can really kind of just drop in because the ego is like it's like the transition between the ego being like, like I'm done with this job, and then you're distracted, so you kind of just fall into place. Like one of my favorite visualizations is using the tree, and so you visualize on the inhale expanding up, like a tree,
Hmm.
like growing and reaching for the sun, the air, and then on the exhale, imagining roots growing out of your feet deep into the earth. And that's a really powerful one. As I feel that one, like the more I've practiced it, I'll feel like a lot of energy moving through my legs, and just feeling really grounded and charged in that way. So yeah, the visualizations in combination with the movement and breath is just so powerful.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So you practice, do you do the transcendental meditation, or when you're talking about the mantra, is that essentially what you're doing? Or are you doing the mantra within the Qi Gong and Tai Chi?
Um, and I don't do that stuff so much anymore, but when I was first getting into it, I would use it a lot.
Hmm.
Now it's pretty easy for me to just kind of drop in quickly. So now I just kind of like just do it because
Yeah.
that muscle has been trained enough to the point where it's like just ingrained in my nervous system, and I know where that's at. But starting out, that was like profoundly helpful. And I would say I practiced that for consistently for several years, and I would do various mantras, even simple stuff like breathing in wholeness, and then on the exhale, I always just like release. And for me, when I say release my mind, I not only like visualize it, but I feel that, and I literally just let go. And then on the inhale, I'll be doing a thing, and usually around that time, the mind will start doing its thing again. And then it's like, oh, inhaling, and there's a mantra, and then the release, and then it's like, oh, that bliss again, that just letting go and dropping. And a friend of mine, he recommended even imagining like falling backwards, like out of your body, and that actually kind of feels good for me on the exhale. I just kind of feel like I'm sinking back, and um, yeah, that feels good in my being.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Because I'm always trying to find new ideas to kind of meditate on and find. I've been working a lot on like visualizing like manifestations, kind of like thinking about something that I see in my future and kind of like building an entire picture, like how I get there, what happens when I'm there, kind of like building the whole picture around it. But
Mm.
finding visualizations to kind of leave your head too are also, I think, very beneficial, which is more along the lines of what you're talking about.
Well,
Like,
and on the note of the manifestations, it's like the more we can frame ourselves in the state of being, acting as if being that person that we're trying to create, because it's already, the energy is already there. So we can step into that frequency and embody what would that person be doing in this moment. And that's simply a process of emptying yourself. Once the vision is clear, you empty yourself, and from that stillness will arise an inspiration, and that's the masculine aspect of creation. That's when we take a step in a direction with clear conviction. We move our body in the direction of our dream, because it's the equal 50-50 journey, right? We're gonna be provided for, but we have to still move our feet. And so we pray and we get clear in the visualization, we feel that experience, and then we embody it. What does that mean to embody that person in that time, and having the gratitude for that experience, even that brings it to us. Because what will happen is, as you're embodying what you're wanting to create, you're representing the frequency of that, and so that's what will be reflected back to you. But it's not instantaneous, at least not yet. So there's a bit of a delay, and so that's where the trust comes in, of the process, and
Trust
staying
the process.
consistent, though we might not be seeing the results yet, but trusting that we're on the right path, and continuously moving in that direction, and honoring those inspirations.
Mhm.
And eventually it will come to fruition, if it's like in true alignment.
Yeah, no, because I think the belief in whatever you're trying to create in your own mind into the external reality, the belief in that vision is like really what makes it happen for yourself and like your action along those lines.
Right. Well, and it's an integrated process, because it's a belief. Like there's many components. It's like the belief, but it's also the charge behind it, and also our alignment physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The more aligned we are, the more we're able to channel these energies clearly through us. Because if we're out of alignment, um, it's like trying to channel through like a cloudy crystal. It's like the message is going to get distorted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. I understand that. Are you into all those crystals and stuff like that? I've seen those. A lot of people use those. Are you into any of those type of things or no?
Well, I like the I'm sensitive to subtle energies, so I can hold them, and
Mhm.
each one does have like a different frequency to it. Honestly, these days, I'm not really into that stuff that much anymore. I mean, I still will mess around with them, but even like the tarot, like I used to do the tarot and the card readings and stuff like that. And that
Uh-huh.
was like a cool like stepping stone, and I would always get interesting insights out of it. But even that, I feel like I've grown past to the degree that um, my intuition is all like right there. So it's like I don't really need the cards to figure anything out anymore.
That
But
makes sense.
it was like a necessary step to like bridge that gap of my intuition and like the subtle realms versus like the more tangible realms, and where they kind of met in the middle. Um, so yeah, I mean, all that stuff's cool.
That
And
makes sense.
they're all tools, at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And I've heard people get a little weird about them, be like, oh, those devil worship, whatever. It's like, it's a crystalline thing, or the cards, they're just cards. Like, and not to say, there's not beings that will be happy to work with you, but um, the cards aren't evil. They're paper.
There's paper. Yeah.
Our consciousness that makes the experience powerful. So that's just my take on that.
Yeah, no, that's
Wow.
interesting. You were
That's
talking
a
about the subtle energies because I remember last time you brought up the auras and how you were able to kind of sense auras around people. And
Mhm.
I thought that was really interesting. I started watching a couple of YouTube videos on like how people's observations with that. Um, I was just kind of interested, like I know like I've like sensed, like I feel like I can look at somebody and kind of see the soul behind the eyes. And I think that's a lot what you kind of mean when you see the auras and stuff, is kind of like sensing like their beingness rather than their personness. Um,
Right.
so like, is that something you do to kind of like look in like deep in somebody's eyes and kind of understand like who they are as like a soul behind that like person, and sense the auras and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I do like eye gazing. I've had some pretty powerful experiences eye gazing with people and really looking into their soul. But when it comes to auras, like actually like around the body, I can see energy. And the higher the vitality of the being, generally, the more clear or articulated that aura is. And so when I first started seeing them, I remember I was in Hollywood and I didn't have a car at the time, so I was riding around with my friend as his passenger, and I was looking out the window, and I remember like people watching. I'm looking at all these different people and looking at their auras, and like looking at the auras of the trees, and like the like a dog that's walking by. And it's like everything had this energy field coming off of it, and I felt like I was in like a whole new world. I'm like, whoa, like look at that, like look at that person's aura. And so it really opened me up to like this state of like childhood curiosity and play, because the world around me just seemed so magical, as before it might have been more mundane and like, oh, like this is how it is. And it's like, but it like opened me up to the magic of the universe, and that there's so much more to this experience than meets the eye at the surface if we're open to perceiving on that level.
Hell yeah.
Interesting. I see. So do you think that that has something to do with your third eye, your pineal gland? Like, is that something about opening that up and opening yourself up to higher levels of awareness that allows you to do that through your meditation and spiritual progress and stuff like that?
Um, Possibly. I would say it could be a little different, because like when I see auras, it's generally with my eyes open, and so I'm seeing like energy around them with my physical eyes.
Hmm.
But if I close my eyes, or if I even like squint a little bit and like look with my third eye, then I'm actually seeing into like the shamanic realm or the dream realm, if you will. And so that's like a whole nother world where it's all just energy. And sometimes I'll even look at myself in that way, uh, from like a third person perspective, and just see that realistically I'm just energy in this, surrounded by energy.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a very interesting perception to have, because it really goes to show that the world around us is much more malleable than it may seem.
Hmm.
And from that place, we have a lot more creative onus and potential to bend the rules, if you will.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So speaking of bending the rules, have you messed around with like dream yoga or lucid dreaming or anything like that? Because I've been doing that for quite some time now. That's how I kind of really opened up my eyes to like meditation and stuff, was lucid dreaming and those experiences. And like I know you said like the shamanic realm, the dream realm, like have you experienced that kind of lucid dream aspect of
Well,
consciousness?
I actually lately have been doing that more and more, even to the degree like sometimes while I'm driving, which may sound not like, but in reality, it's like I'm very grounded in this body, and I can like move around, do whatever I need to do, but I'm also aware of myself in another reality, and that's like the dream realm. And in that realm, the rules are much different. And like you said, with the lucid dreaming, it's like you can shape shift. I could be a jaguar one moment, traversing through the trees, and then shape shift into like another being, and like whatever, spin around back into a jaguar, into an eagle, like whatever. It's all like all right there, and that's the imaginal realm. And so many of us have been cut off to our imagination in these things and told, oh, that's just not real. Well, that realm is just as real, it's just different. And so the experience in those realms is like real, but it's not tangible, and it's not like it doesn't like look the same, I guess, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to be grounded in two worlds at once. Is like I mean, this is why many people can kind of lose themselves on psychedelics and stuff, is because they get so opened up to this realm, but they're not like fully embodied. So they're not able to differentiate what they're witnessing in one realm versus another. Whereas like
Mhm.
I'm very clear that like this is what I'm seeing and pretty much everyone's seeing. And then the stuff in that realm people could be seeing, but there's a good chance they're not seeing it.
Yeah.
So having that differentiation between like reality and like the imaginal realm is pretty important, and that really just comes down to being embodied. So having awareness in our feet, in our hands, anywhere in our body, in our organs. Even the other night I was messing around with some tuning forks. After all my driving, I realized I had been really kicked out of my liver and kidneys, and there's just like a lot of restriction there. And so using the tuning forks, I was feeling into that. It was a little uncomfortable, honestly, but I would breathe into those organs until they were at the point where they felt very spacious, and I could fully expand them and breathe into them and fully contract them. Because these are meant to pump and they're meant to breathe. All of our bodies meant to breathe, and we can habitually or through patterns, due to avoiding discomfort or whatever it may be, uh, leave various parts of our body and not be inhabiting it. And so the more we can bring awareness to all aspects of our body, and be inside of it, being embodied, the better we're going to feel and the easier we're going to be able to navigate. And the interesting thing I noticed doing that was so much energy freed up once I started breathing directly into my liver and into my kidneys, because they were kind of like restricted a little bit just from the lack of movement in the car all the time, not always having the best food. So that restricted nature um, disrupts the flow of energy and information through our entire being.
Mm.
So
So you try and put a lot of awareness into your body and organs and stuff like that. And I know Troy talks a lot about gut health and stuff like that. Is
Mhm.
that kind of all the same kind of awareness of like, because you can see what's going on the outside, like, oh, like you can see your arms, your legs, your torso, but you don't know what's really going on the inside. Is that kind of putting the awareness in there and really realizing what you're doing inside of your body?
Yeah, and that's an interesting point too. Well, the other day I was reflecting on the energy of like the earthworm, as a recommendation of this shaman I met. And because I've been driving so much, so a lot of my organ system is kind of like lowered in vitality a little bit, just from not moving as much and being sat there. uh and so I noticed my intestines weren't like really doing the peristalsis so well. And so the shaman recommended I work with the earthworm. And so I worked with the energy of like the earthworm, the way it moves, and it's kind of like just slinking along. And I started to feel that as I would breathe in my intestines, and then I felt them moving in that way, but it was bringing awareness to that area. So anytime we can bring conscious awareness back into areas of our body that might have gotten kicked out of, energy is going to flow better there, and we can start to heal these things quite miraculously. But yeah, gut health is extremely important, and anything, food carries a tremendous amount of energy and information, which is informing our cells, putting us into formation. That's how we're showing up. So yeah, I mean, you are what you eat is the saying. And you know do you want to be made of espresso and cupcakes and Doritos, or do you want your eyeballs and your heart and these important systems in your body to be made of high quality alive food? You know?
Yeah, no, that does make a lot of
Eric,
sense.
I gotta ask you. So I've been obviously I'm sure you know like the carnivore diet and all that. Like I'm sure you've seen the Liver King,
Yeah.
that guy, right? But so I've been seeing this, and there's the Carnivore MD, if you know him too. But like they give a pretty like good backing as to why they feel this way about the food. And I asked Troy on his live like probably a week ago, and like he was with Barbero, and they were like driving somewhere, and Troy just gave like a typical like Troy answer and was just like making fun of them. But I wanted to like know like why is that maybe not necessarily the most like best diet to have?
Well, in
Like
my
integration of both plants and meat. Do you
it's a
feel
little rigid in nature, and anytime we're being dogmatic in our approach,
that's very like
yeah,
severe or like extreme rather.
it is, and it can lead to imbalance just from our mindset around it. And I have kind of I interact with a lot of people who are vegan or keto or all these different diets that they identify with, and it becomes part of them because they're identifying with it.
Uh-huh.
And my philosophy on food is to keep listening to your body. Well, first learning to listen to your body, but then practicing that and connecting with it and seeing what you really need. And having the room also for experience, because I believe we're here to have a human experience and to experience the full range of that. So why would we limit ourselves to not having a nice steak when we're craving one, or to not having like a nice salad if we're craving one, just because we have an idea that it's like not helpful? And there's a balance to that, right? If we're eating like chocolate chip cookies all the time, that's probably not going to be very optimal. But if we're eating a variety of foods and cycling and rotating and just mixing it up, our body can handle it, as long as our systems are good. And there's a process to that. And maybe you do find that, oh, when I eat this kind of food, I don't feel so well, so maybe avoid that more so. But to say like, oh, all plants are bad, or like, oh, don't eat meat, is like,
that is like the thing for me. I was like, I can't believe that this is like all plants can't be bad like type.
Well, and realize too, part of that is the controversial nature of it, and that's
it's really polarizing for views.
It pulls
and
people
stuff like
in
that. Yeah.
Attention, and they can sell you something.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
Think about how we market our TikTok page. We always start out with something very controversial, and then we kind of deconstruct it afterwards. Maybe it's not so controversial if you watch for 30 seconds, but if you watch for the first 5, it's like, who the fuck are these guys? Like,
Right.
So yeah.
I wanted to get the perspective on that, because I obviously feel the same way about it, but like I wanted to hear from someone that like obviously way more than me as far as like health in the foods that we should be eating and stuff.
Well, and another thing, because I've talked to some of these carnivore guys, and I've talked to them about like genetics and epigenetics, and I agree with them on some levels, because they say that the epigenetic supersedes the well, so essentially my point was that your ancestry plays a role in what foods you're going to gravitate towards and do the best with. And a big part of it, and out of the people I've talked to, none of them have really made this connection, but I read a book, Biochemical Individuality, and it was this guy who did a ton of cadaver research, like autopsies on bodies, and he studied the positioning of the liver and all the different organs and stuff. And what he found was all like a tremendous, I think it was like 14 different kinds of liver shapes and positions and sizes. And so our organs are all shaped differently, slightly differently, their positions differently, the size is different. But not only that, the efficiency of these, as well as our enzymatic pathways, the efficiency of our enzymatic pathways can be tremendously different, from the degree of like even 50 times more efficient. So if you're looking at a blood test that's saying, oh, this is the normal range, but this person's enzymatic efficiency is 50 times more, well, their system's going to be working much, much differently, because they're to process whatever compound at an extremely well, a much different rate. And so taking that into account, the length of your digestive system plays a big role in whether you're going to do better with more meats and fats versus the produce and such. And that has a lot to do with how long it's going to be sitting in your body. So like the fruits and the lighter stuff is going to break down faster. And so say you ate a bunch of meat and then you ate fruit, well, that meat's going to take a long time to break down in comparison. So if you think of it in the tract, you have the meat here and then the fruit and stuff is here. Well, that fruit's going to break down really quickly and start to kind of rot literally inside of your digestive system, because it can't move past this meat that's still breaking down. And so the length of that digestive system is a big part of how what people gravitate towards more. And if you look at cultures, from my experience, generally European type people do better with meats and fats and proteins because they're from more cold climates, whereas people,
that's what I was gonna say too,
or of the tropical environments or the hot environments where think of what different cultures have access to locally. And yes, we're adaptive beings that can handle a lot of different things, but we can make it a lot easier for our system just by going with things that ancestrally we've adapted to eat.
And that's like that's the key, I think, because like the Liver King talks about the ancestral tenets, and like he's like, oh, all of our ancestors ate like a carnivore diet. Like, no, that's not necessarily true. Like all of our ancestors, like you would eat meat if you were in a colder climate because that might be all that you had access to, but like all of our ancestors didn't come from a cold, like harsh climate like that.
Well,
Like, what's up?
I stayed with a friend in LA for a bit, and yeah, he's this Hispanic, and he would eat a lot of rice, a lot of fruits, a lot of salads, stuff like that. And if I ate the way he ate, I probably wouldn't feel very good because it's a lot of carbohydrate, and I don't do that well with like that much carbohydrate. But yeah, so we ate very differently. I ate a lot of meat, and that's a lot to do with his genes and his ancestry. And I do believe that we are more than those things, like our genes and our ancestry, and we can, adapt beyond that. But it's also like a matter of picking our battles and setting our bodies and our environment up for success to the degree that we are, because we're constantly being bombarded by information and toxins on many levels. So how can we minimize the stress on the system and bring in the most amount of nutrients and beneficial energies into our being without taxing our system? And anytime we bring food into our body, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to process that from mouth to anus to go through the tract. That takes energy. And so in Paul Chek's teachings, he talks about non-foods. And a non-food, in his definition, is any food that takes more energy to digest and process and eliminate than it actually provides you. And so that's why many people will feel sleepy after a meal, is one reason. There's many, but this is one of them, is because it's taking them more energy to process it than it's actually providing them. And so they're eating, they're putting matter into their body, but energetically they're in a deficit.
That's crazy.
Very interesting. So like that food coma that you experience is essentially your body is taking more energy to process all those mashed potatoes and turkey and mac and cheese that you ate on Thanksgiving. Then, that makes a lot of sense.
Very, very
so
good.
Like all the GMOs and processed foods and stuff, and our body doesn't know what to do with it. It looks at that and it's like, what in the world is this? I'll just put this in a cyst or a fat cell because I don't even know what to do with it. So we'll just store it away somewhere where it's not going to get into the bloodstream and hurt the body. And then our body stores toxins in the fat as a protection mechanism, or cysts or tumors and stuff like that. A lot of times can be storing the toxins. Now it can be for other reasons too. And like you said, even with the food coma, one thing to note is that like even if you are eating highly quality sourced foods, if you're getting sleepy after a meal and you know all your stuff is good, is probably because you ate too much fat or protein for your personal like optimal ratio, and so you'll feel kind of heavy in the gut and just a little sleepy. And so as you know, we're learning to work with our bodies and balance them using high quality ingredients. You might find that 2 portions of steak and 1 portion of salad is like too much fat, and then you feel a little heavy. But maybe if you throw in some cherry tomatoes or maybe a teaspoon of honey or something like that, you'll balance your blood sugar and you'll feel like level-headed. Real ideally, we should be able to go between meals pretty easily, like 3 to 4 hours without snacking or even having cravings. And we should feel clear and stable, and that's all has to do with blood sugar management.
I got one more thing to ask before I gotta go to class in like a minute. But would you agree that for every meal you eat, you should have a bowel movement?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, because I've been seeing that on like TikTok and stuff of people that are like they're the same way, same type people as like Liver King, where they're just like projecting, they're like identify with like one thing and then they just like project it onto everyone. And like this one guy keeps like posting about like, oh, if your body's healthy, like you should be having a bowel movement for every meal that you eat. And like to me, that didn't really make not that it didn't make sense, but that might not always be true.
Yeah, that might not always be true. And just one thing to take into consideration with that, or just to be mindful of, is like if you're only having to go poop once a day, like it should be roughly the amount of matter you're consuming. So if you're only going once a day, it should be more if you're eating a lot of food. So there should be a ratio of that. But you know, if anyone's having problems with digestion, breathing, get your breathing in check. It's free. Start practicing the stork walk and getting your diaphragm moving, getting all those organs, the viscera moving, do your Tai Chi or Zen swings, get everything pumping and flowing. Because when you're breathing and pumping, you're moving matter through your body. We're you know, most animals are four-legged, or you know, they're horizontal, whereas we're vertical. So stuff has to pump upstream, and for that to happen, be an energy and a pumping mechanism, which is how our bodies are designed. And we're designed to walk and run. And in our lifestyle, we need this twist pattern to pump the fluids through our body. And that happens in gait, i.e. walking or running, but also these Qigong movements or breathing squats, stork walks. All of these things can be great to get those, everything pumping through you. And I had a mentor, she was working with a client, and her mom got had all these digestive issues, and then all of a sudden that all cleared up, and her daughter came to my mentor and was like, what'd you do? Like, my mom's like life just changed. And she's like, oh, I just taught her how to breathe.
That's
and it's like it's really that simple.
Breath is life. So that's simple.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, well, I gotta run to class, but
yeah, I gotta run too. I got class.
Great
as well.
talking to you, Eric. I always love.
Hopefully, I didn't hijack your conversation too much.
No, that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted you to hop on and chat.
Not at all, dude. Not at all. We were talking about some bullshit, like not bullshit, but like definitely way more wise of a conversation, full of more knowledge with you. Always. That's what I love. We'll connect more, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Oh, we got to stay in touch. I mean, we've been in touch. So,
well, much love to you guys, your audience.
Appreciate
you guys inviting me on and hearing me out, and yeah, let's do it again.
Awesome. Yes, sir. Appreciate you coming on. I'm sure we'll have another conversation soon enough.
Do you want to close out the pod? All you got to say is this podcast is not infinite.
You said this podcast is not infinite?
Yeah, we're infinite, but the one thing that is not infinite is this podcast. So we gotta shut it down.
Mortal beings, but this podcast, it is not infinite.
Yeah. Exactly. And then call out one person.
If you have anybody to call out,
Hey, you don't fuck with them. Just call them out.
Uh, yeah, or have anyone to call out, man. It's all God at the end of the day.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Anyone
Alright.
that I'm having problems with is my opportunity to look in the mirror and say, where inside of me does that exist?
Yeah,
And
you're
why
too woke.
accept
You're
that
too
part of
woke for
myself?
us. We always like to throw a little third dimension polarizing something at the end for the views, you know.
Yeah.
Be a little entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Like last
All
week
right.
we called out Pfizer last week.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Getting us
Oh.
banned on YouTube.
Yeah, we're gonna get banned on YouTube. Hopefully
Yeah,
not.
hopefully not. All right. Well, it's been
Good talking to you,
wonderful
Eric.
talking to you guys. All right. I shall catch you soon.
Peace out,
Peace.
guys.
Peace out. We're
Peace and
watching you, YouTube.
Yeah, we're watching.